and Student Affairs Committee meeting to order. Carol, will you please call the roll?
Dr. Pam Egan.
Here.
Ms. Lola Donahoe.
Present.
Mr. Edward Crawford.
Here.
Mr. Richard Davis.
Here.
Mr. Mark Romero.
Here.
Mr. Joe Salter.
Here.
Mr. Robert Shreve.
Here.
I'd like to, are you done?
We have 100%.
Thank you. I'd like to invite all the committee members to participate in the committee proceedings. Be reminded that anyone who wishes to make a public comment on an agenda item must complete a public comment card located on the table at the back of the auditorium and turn the card in to a UL system staff member. At the appropriate time, you will be asked to come forward and share your comments with the committee. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you. We have 15 items on the Academic and Student Affairs Committee agenda today. Each member previously received executive summaries and associated information on these items. 13 items are being presented on the consent agenda, which requires our vote, but no individual discussion unless a member wants to remove a consent item for further discussion. The last 2 items, items 14 and 15, are reports only and do not require a vote. Dr. Janine Kahn, UL System Provost and Vice President for the Academic Affairs, is here to present an overview of the items on the consent agenda and to answer any questions relative to that agenda. Dr. Kahn?
Thank you, Dr. Egan, and good morning to you, Chair Perkins, President Henderson, and members of the board. We will go ahead and move through the 13 consent items, and I'll briefly provide a little description on each. The first is agenda item F1, which is a request from Grambling State University for approval to offer a Bachelor of Science in Cybersecurity. At this time, I'd like to invite President Gallo to join us at the table so that he can provide you with an overview of the program as well as an explanation as to why this is a priority for the institution. President Gallo, good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair of the committee, Mr. Chairman. Do I have a clicker? I'll try to go through this as expeditiously as possible. We are now making our second round as we are pursuing final approval of the bachelor's degree in cybersecurity. In putting into context the vision set forth by Governor John Bell Edwards, who in December of 2017 said we must continue our commitment to establishing cybersecurity capabilities and resources. I think there is a vision from the top that our state must have a meaningful place in the cybersecurity realm. And of course, as a result of the vision of the governor, he has created the Cybersecurity Commission, upon which our head of our Computer Science Department, Dr. Reddy, as well as President Geis from Louisiana Tech, General Curtis, who's over the National Guard, all serve on that Cybersecurity Commission. When you think of the vision set forth by the governor, the legacy of Grambling State University, having graduated our first class of computer science graduates in 1972, we have a long tradition of providing great computer scientists in the workplace. And when you think about our position currently along the I-20 corridor that has been dubbed the cyber corridor now between the Cyber Innovation Center in Shreveport, Bossier, as well as CenturyLink there in Monroe, there has been created a corridor of cyber innovation that is, we certainly believe we can have a more meaningful part in that. And when you put that together with the expertise of our faculty and the programs already existing in computer science, we certainly believe we're positioned well to take on this task. When you look at our faculty and all the work that they're doing in the cyberspace now, they've put on workshops over the last couple of years dealing with data analytics and security, quantum communications and cloud security. I know Dr. Henderson understands all of these subject matters very well. Cybersecurity updates, and you look at just some of the research that our faculty is currently engaged in with the Cyber Innovation Center, with LED, ICF, IEEE, and others, we certainly have the expertise currently to launch this program. These numbers are sometimes shocking to people when they see them for the first time, that we are the #1 producer of African American graduates in computer science and CIS in the state of Louisiana. As you can see, over the last 6 years, we've produced 119 graduates, African American graduates in this field, and you can see how we rank among our peers. Coming in at a close second is Southern University of Baton Rouge at 94. But again, those numbers, I think, speak to what we're doing. And when you look at the number of majors we have in our computer science department, increasing from 72 to currently at 90, and we're projecting that we will be at 100 for the spring, there is just an energy that has been created in our computer science department as we anticipate the addition of this new program in cybersecurity. Again, we're #1 in the state of Louisiana. We're still in the top 50 nationally in terms of the number of professionals that we are sending out into the IT realm in computer science. And Grambling at one point was the #1 producer, and it is our goal that we will regain that #1 position in the whole country in terms of the number of African American graduates in computer science, with the addition of the cybersecurity. And that is, I think, very realistic, and we won't stop working until we regain our #1 national standing. And when you think about, the current workforce gap that's now projected to be 2 million workers in 2019, there is a great market need for it. And I highlight one of our students, one of two who actually interned at Clico Corporation this past summer as a network and security intern. We had computer science and CIS majors who were engaged in internships all across the country. Clico is just one that I thought was good to highlight because it is a Louisiana company, and we did have students who were successful interns there at Clico this summer. Since 2016, we have invested $1.8 million in our computer labs, thanks to leveraging our Title III federal dollars. We thought that it was important going in to invest in our IT infrastructure, and we knew that we would have needs in this area that we would have to invest in. So we utilized our Title III federal dollars to invest. So we're talking since 2016, almost $2 million that we have invested in our computer labs and our IT infrastructure to support this new program. It's not mentioned here, but thanks to the legislature appropriating an additional $1.5 million that we do intend to use to focus on recruiting and hiring additional faculty, which is something that will be a part of this. We have been able to leverage other fund sources to essentially start up this new program. So this request of you does not have any additional dollar amounts attached to it. And when you look at the additional courses that we've already added to our curriculum in computer science, we've already begun what I would consider a soft ramp up to launching this program for fall of 2019. Again, having this program just puts us in a great position, not just as an HBCU, but as a university with a program that has the opportunity to participate in grants and other contracts with federal agencies, with private entities. This just puts us in a posture to really monetize a program like this, and we certainly intend to take full advantage of this opportunity. Again, just highlighting Dr. Reddy and again serving on the Governor's Commission, as well as all these other related activities that he's been involved in. He is recognized as a leading expert in the cybersecurity space. And so again, when we look at publications, everything we're doing, added coursework, the enrollment has already increased in that program. Our computer science department is already accredited by ABET, and we have built into this program our plan to have our program accredited, the cybersecurity program accredited by ABET. We would be the first we would be the first program in the country to be accredited under this new ABET criteria. And I think that is very notable and something that people will come from far and wide to be a part of such a highly recognized program. We've sent our proposal out to a number of industry individuals, and I thought it was important to share with you feedback that we received from actually a regional IT professional who said, "I love seeing the intrusion detection and artificial intelligence electives and the vulnerability assessment and management coursework. These are highly sought after skills. The proposal is well put together and outlines how the degree will produce qualified graduates that can contribute to the growing information technology needs of private and public entities in Louisiana." I know I'm talking fast, but Dr. Khan said I only had a few minutes to do this, so I'm trying to squeeze it all in. But that's reflective of the kind of feedback I've gotten from all over the country. As I was in Los Angeles a few weeks ago, one of our alums who I can't name the company, who works for an IT company that does this work, and as everyone has looked at it and analyzed what we propose to do, they see how valuable this program will be, not only for Grambling, but for the country and for the world. And so with that, I will say thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have as I talk really quickly. And I know my wife's going to get on me on the way home. She's going to say, "You talk too fast." But my wife, Christy, has joined me today for support on this very important day.
Any questions?
Madam Chair. President Gallo, thank you for the presentation of this information. As all of us know here in Louisiana, cybersecurity is very important in far as developing curriculum for our students to get ahead of the curve, to be in the front lines of being educated in a curriculum that is going to be important and it is changing the dynamics of the entire world. This is not just a Louisiana thing, this is a global issue. We're talking about cybersecurity. I just found out a couple weeks ago that I'm part of the Black Web. And I was like, I didn't know what the Black Web was until they said that my email was popping up and was sending stuff to people requesting everything. No money, obviously, but I got a lot of requests. And so if you can imagine that happening everywhere, and we all have gotten emails about various stuff that our accounts may be tampered, and even now voting and everything else that is out there, it is important that we put our kids and our students here in Louisiana up front. And I'm glad to see that we have universities in our system that are pushing and are thinking forward and have the foresight to know that this is the kind of curriculum that we need to develop. More importantly, we talk about the private-public sponsorships and collaborations that we need. This type of major calls for that. Obviously, there's going to be companies that are in this line of work that they're going to be looking for workers, as you mentioned. And for us to be out there producing those future employees is important. I'm glad that you pointed out today that Grambling University used to be #1 in the nation as far as producing African Americans in computer science. A lot of people didn't know that. And President Gallo, I know that with your vision and the team that you have in front of you, and with the support of this board, that we will regain that #1 spot as far as the nation being able to do that. And obviously, all of this is tied into recruiting, enrollment, and also being able to have more talent and to have our tentacles, not just here in Louisiana, but throughout the nation. This is a type program that will attract students nationwide. So with that being said, I just wanted to let you know that I'm in strong support of this program. I think that this is something that we definitely need as a system, and I think that Grambling University needs. I think that although we're known for the band and the football, before that there were scientists in STEM programs. And you have such great alums such as Elena Robinson and people like that who have graduated from that computer program, who have been strong supporters of an alum financially and with their time with Grambling University and dealing with the computer science program.
She was in that first graduating class in 1972.
Correct. That's all I have.
Well, thank you, and I would like to let the board know, this has been a very long road, and I wanted to extend my appreciation to President Gallo and his leadership team. Any question that was raised, because I can be a challenge to deal with sometimes, that they rose to the occasion, and what results is a very strong program that not only will meet the needs of the state, but it will educate these students beyond what they need to know. And it all is to the work of the institution. And what you see before you is an extremely strong program concept, and I greatly appreciate all the work that went into this over the course of the last year, so thank you.
And I thank you because I think our proposal is so much stronger because you did ask very tough questions. And I want to also credit Dean Stacy Duhan, who's here as well, for her support and her involvement, as well as Dr. Reddy and our provost, Dr. Smiley, in getting us to this point. But I very much appreciate Dr. Khan's tough questions because I think we're much better now because she did ask those tough questions.
Thank you for your time. Dr. Egan will go ahead and move through the rest of the agenda. Moving forward, F2 is a request for approval of a letter of intent for a Doctor of Nursing practice from Mcneese State University. This is a 52 credit hour practice doctorate which will focus on the field of advanced practice psychiatric mental health nursing. With a long and strong history of Mcneese's School of Nursing, it makes sense for them to pursue the DNP, especially in light of the fact that there's a documented shortage of psychiatric mental health professionals, and none of the existing DNPs offered in the state of Louisiana specialize in this area. Agenda items F3 and F4 are pertaining to Nicholls State University. F3 is a request for termination of the existing Bachelor of Science in General Family and Consumer Science, since the degree title misrepresents the true nature and scope of the program as it exists today. A teach-out plan has been prepared for students that will be transitioned into the existing Bachelor of Art in Psychology, and the institution will create a concentration in pre-counseling that those students will pursue and that better reflect the curriculum that's offered by the institution. F4 is a request to award an honorary doctorate of commerce to Mr. Donald T. Boise Bollinger. The university would like to recognize Mr. Bollinger for his remarkable business achievements, which have greatly impacted the Bayou region, as well as his service and dedication to Nicholls State University. Agenda item F5 is a request from Northwestern State University to offer a Bachelor of Science in Resource Management. Currently, the university offers a Bachelor of Applied Science in Resource Management, which is a more applied degree. The curriculum has been redesigned to provide a much more solid foundation in resource management and preparation in one of 5 focused areas of concentration that Northwestern would now like to offer at the level of Bachelor of Science. Agenda item F6 is a request from the University of Louisiana at Lafayette for approval to offer a graduate certificate in cardiovascular nursing family nurse practitioner. This 12-hour graduate certificate, which will be provided online, includes didactic courses and clinical practicum experiences that will provide nurses with experience, knowledge, and abilities to practice competently in the specialty area of cardiovascular nursing. Agenda items F7 through F10 pertain to the University of Louisiana at Monroe. F7 is a request for approval to offer a Doctor of Occupational Therapy. ULM currently offers a very productive Master of Occupational Therapy, which graduates 26 students annually. However, the accrediting body has now mandated that the doctoral degree will be required for entry-level practitioners effective July 2027. In anticipation of this change, ULM is requesting to replace the existing MOT with the OTD so that students who pursue the program will be eligible to sit for the national board exam. F8 is a request for approval of a letter of intent to develop a proposal for a Bachelor of Art in Music. The program is designed for those individuals and students who are interested in the field of music but do not wish to teach music in the classroom setting or pursue a performance degree or career. The curriculum consists of a very strong music core along with a secondary area of concentration, which will allow the individual to focus in their primary area of interest in order to blend the two to pursue a career or to pursue further education in graduate or professional studies. F9, the last one from ULM, is a request to offer a post-baccalaureate certificate in autism spectrum disorder. This 15-credit-hour PBC, to be offered online, will provide specific training to a variety of professionals regarding effective and efficient strategies to support individuals diagnosed as on the spectrum as well as their family members. And F10 is ULM's request to enter into a cooperative endeavor with the Edward Via College of Osteopathic Medicine. Of course, all of you are aware of this exciting endeavor that's going on at ULM with VCON establishing a campus on ULM's campus in order to offer the Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine. What ULM would like to do is to utilize some of their anatomy faculty to teach in the courses related to the recently approved Doctor of Physical Therapy, as well as to utilize their anatomy lab. This will assist in cross-culturing the two institutions, as well as reducing costs for the university. And the last three items, F11 through F13, are in regards to the University of New Orleans. F11 is a request to offer a graduate certificate in data analytics. The 12-credit-hour online GC will provide individuals with the tools to interpret, explain, and present large quantities of data for decision-making purposes. This GC will be very attractive to those working professionals that now need to enhance their abilities to interpret and use data in the workplace. F12 is a request to establish an Institute for Urban Entrepreneurship. UNO has been extremely successful in conducting research and providing programming and activities connected to issues relevant to entrepreneurship within an urban setting. Since this is such an interdisciplinary approach and effort, the university would like to create this institute to serve as an organizational umbrella to further expand and facilitate the work being conducted at the university. And lastly, F13 is a request from UNO to enter into a cooperative endeavor with University Claude Bernard Lyon I in order to establish an exchange program for dual degrees in the area of chemistry at the graduate level. And that concludes the consent agenda items.
Thank you, Dr. Khan. Do any board members have any questions or need clarification? If no one requires further clarification, I would like to recommend approval of items F1 through F13 from the consent agenda. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Mr. Romero and Ms. Donahoe. Are there any questions, comments from the board? Any comments from the public? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved. Now we will receive the report on item F14, which is University of Louisiana System's Proposed Policy and Procedures Memorandum on Free Speech. Ms. Erica Kelly, Vice President for Student Affairs, will present this item. Ms.
Thank you,
Kelly?
Dr. Egan. Good morning. In your folders, you will find a copy of the system's free speech policy. If you recall, the recent legislation, Act 666, regarding free expression, mandated that the management boards of public post-secondary education institutions and their respective institutions create and/or revise their free speech policies to reflect the new legislative mandates. I am pleased to say that all of our campuses have revised their free speech policies accordingly. As well, the campuses did not work in silos. They collaborated with their respective stakeholders, and also they collaborated with their counterparts across UL system institutions. At this juncture, all policies have been reviewed by system staff and vetted by our legal counsel. This morning, we held a meeting with the Vice Presidents for Student Affairs as well as the Deans of Student Affairs, and Linda Clark joined us, and she gave everybody the green light. Right, Linda? Yes. So we are in good shape with the free speech policies. All policies include a purpose or preamble, procedures, definitions, time, place, and manner restrictions, along with the reporting process. Again, we're pleased with the work of our campuses on this policy, and I can entertain any questions if you have any.
Are there any comments or questions?
Madam Chair, if I could, I just wanted to thank Erica for her leadership in developing this policy. This policy clearly states that it's the intent of our institutions to be bastions of free expression. We think that that's a foundation for critical thinking and for it's a basic principle of higher education. But to get everyone to agree to wording around those types of principles is no small task, and Erica just did an exceptional job, as she always does, and I just wanted to publicly thank her for that.
This is a report only and does not require a vote. Dr. Khan will now report on item F15, Reducing Textbook Cost Initiative.
Thank you, Dr. Egan.
Khan.
The cost to pursue higher education is significant enough, and as a system, we are seeking innovative solutions to reduce costs associated with attendance. If the goal is to increase educational attainment, then the objective should be to minimize cost to make attendance more affordable and accessible. One area that we are targeting in this regard is reducing the cost of textbooks to our students. While many of our campuses have already begun to address this issue, for example, Nicholls State University has created a task force that has been charged to develop general education courses, which are 39 hours of a 120-hour degree, that can utilize open educational resources. And also, they have established a price match program with Barnes & Noble, which last year saved students $302,000 collectively. Another example is ULM, where leaders have decided to move from expensive commercial textbooks to cost-effective digital books and related materials, with such an endeavor saving their students approximately $340,000 last year. However, with that being said, there is certainly much more work that we can do. If the universities of Louisiana act decisively, we can reduce cost, enhance pedagogy, increase student success, and change how textbooks and related course materials are created, distributed, and used. We can also demonstrate to students, parents, and other stakeholders that providing an affordable path to academic success is a priority for the system and for our 9 institutions. With that being said, we are launching an initiative to significantly reduce the textbook costs over the course of the next 3 years. Campuses will be asked to provide an implementation plan that clearly identifies ways in which the student burden related to textbooks costs can be reduced with yearly updates on progress. To kick this off, the Chief Academic Officers will be meeting later today with Ms. Terry Galloway, who is Associate Commissioner for Lewis. Ms. Galloway will present information on ways in which libraries and faculty can collaborate to reduce the cost of textbooks, along with services and grant opportunities that are available via Lewis. As we move forward with this initiative, we certainly will report to the board and let you know what progress is being made, and we hope that you're supportive of such an initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kahn. Are there any comments or questions?
Madam Chair, if I could, our approach to this effort is a little bit different than some that you've seen. You see a lot of efforts that come around that are prescriptive in nature, that we're going to pursue an OER, Open Educational Resources Initiative, or we're going to pursue an e-textbooks initiative. The challenge is there are so many different approaches that institutions can take that can reduce costs to students and textbooks that we didn't want to be prescriptive in the how, but we did want to be challenging in the what and the why. We see no reason why within 3 years we couldn't save $10 million a year in out-of-pocket expense for our students on textbooks. Each institution might have a different approach to how they do that. Southeastern University has long been a leader in providing low-cost textbooks through a rental program. It works exceedingly well at Southeastern. It's problematic for other institutions simply because the upfront cost is exorbitant to move to that model. But that might be an option, at least a partial option, for some of our schools. Open educational resources are a rich source of text that can be low cost to students. E-textbooks can sometimes be less expensive, but not always. And so we're challenging schools to find the best approach that meets the needs of their faculty, that protect the ability of their faculty to be in charge of the instructional process. It's absolutely essential. But at the same time, being cognizant of the rising cost of higher education to students and finding innovative ways to reduce that to them. And Dr. Kahn, thank you for leading that effort.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. Henderson. This is a report only and does not require a vote. Is there any other business to come before the committee at this time? If not, may I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Romero?
Second.
And Mr. Richard Davis. The Academic and Student Affairs Committee is adjourned.
I'd like to call to order the October 2018 meeting of the Athletic Committee to order. Ms. Carroll, would you call the roll, please?
Dr. John Condos, Mr. Virgil Robinson,
Present.
Dr. Pamela Egan,
Present.
Mr. Sean Murphy,
Here.
Ms. Elizabeth Pierre,
Here.
Mr. Mark Romero.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. I invite all board members present to participate. We have 7 items on the athletic committee's consent agenda. Mr. Janae will provide an overview by campus and of all those agenda items. Mr. Janae?
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. We have item G1 through G3 from Nichols. They are requesting approval of contracts with Seth Thibodeau, head baseball coach, Angel Santiago, head softball coach, and Mary Plaisance, who's the head women's basketball coach. Items G4 through G6 come from University of Louisiana at Lafayette, requesting approval of contract with Stephanie Vallejos, head women's tennis coach, Mark Jeffrey, head men's tennis coach, and Mr. Robert Moreland, who's the head men's basketball coach. And finally, item G7 is from University of Louisiana at Monroe, approval of a contract with Miss Molly Fitchner, head softball coach. That's all the items I have, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, sir. All of the items presented by Mr. Janae have been reviewed and are recommended by staff. Are there any questions from the board? Recognizing none. Are there questions, comments from the public? Recognizing none. I would, at this point, ask for an order and request a motion to approve the items as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Murphy? Ms. Egan, second. Any objections? Without objections, the items are approved. Do we have any other business at this time? If not, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Egan, second by Mr. Romero. We stand adjourned. The Facility Planning Committee is next.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. We'll call the Facilities Planning Commission meeting to order this time. I'll ask Carol to call the roll.
Mr. Mark Romero?
Here.
Mr. Sean Murphy? Here. Mr. James Carter? Dr. John Condos? Dr. Pam Egan?
Present.
Mr. Robert Shreve? Mr. Robert Shreve? Mr. Winfred Seville?
Here.
There's a quorum.
Thank you, Carol. We'll also invite all board members present to participate in committee proceedings. We'll ask for approval of the minutes from the August 23rd Facilities Planning Committee meeting at this time. I have a motion by Mr. Murphy, second by Dr. Egan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have one item on the Facilities Planning Committee meeting that is a consent item. Mr. Janae will present it, and I'll ask that he proceed with that presentation this time.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. Yes, we just have one item, and it's from Northwestern, requesting approval to name room 272 of View Hall in honor of Dr. Jack Pace, and name it the Dr. Jack Pace Memorial Human Anatomy and Physiological Laboratory. Dr. Pace was very instrumental at Northwestern. He passed away in August of 2018, and all the faculty members within his department voted unanimously to make this request. And that's all I have as far as consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Janae. Dr. Henderson has a comment.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to tell you, 27 years ago, I walked into an auditorium for a biology class taught by Jack Pace. I stumbled into the classroom, ill-prepared, and took my first test for him, and I got a 22 on the test. Out of 100. 25 years later, when I arrived on campus as the president, I ran into Jack Pace, had not seen him since that fateful day. And I said, I don't know if you remember this, but you gave me a 22 on my first biology exam I had in your class. And in his inimitable style, he said, son, I didn't give you anything. You earned that 22. And I will tell you that countless numbers of students went through a very similar experience, usually with higher marks, in Jack Pace's class. He was an extraordinary faculty member at Northwestern, and this memorial to him is certainly appropriate, and I encourage your passage of that. And God rest Jack.
Thank you, Dr. Henderson. I think it's certainly memorialized well under your lead at the system level. This item has been reviewed by staff and is recommended for approval. Are there any questions or comments from the board at this time? Hearing none, any comments from the public? No one requires further clarification. I'd like for this item to be considered as approved as item H1 of our facilities meeting. Moved by Mr. Murphy, second by Mr. Sabille. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I've also asked Bruce to, and routinely we would like to bring to the board's attention, progress that we're seeing on our campuses. And Bruce, again, has prepared a short preview for us that'll outline some of the things that we're doing that are very constructive in nature and I think progressive and really helping to position our campuses to be more competitive in the market they're in. So I presume Dr. Gallo will be here to maybe share some comments as well.
Well, thank you, Mr. Romero, and I'm very pleased to present a couple of projects I know the board has been very interested in, and I've asked President Gallo to just to say a few words. I'm pleased to show you that we have a final rendering of the new Grambling Intramural Center. President Gallo would like to comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Bruce, thank you for inviting me up. This is a project that is a long time coming, and it has brought a lot of excitement to our campus. This is 100% student funded, and to actually see the student fees going to actual work being done on the campus is very exciting. They're very excited to see their dollars at work, and so as this project continues, it certainly has the ability to be a real game changer for student life on our campus, and so we're excited about seeing the progress on this project.
And I'm very pleased to show that we, after a number of renderings, we finally have the final rendering for the Grambling Library that I've been challenged with to try to get into work. President Gallo is very excited. He's been meeting with the design team, and I'll ask him to make a few comments about it.
What you see is the culmination of days and days and weeks, really, of meetings between students, faculty, staff, our facilities, employees, and the design team that was assembled to come up with a concept for what I assure you will be the most technologically advanced library, if not in the region, but possibly even the country. As we continue to move technology advances on our campus, the library fits very well into the overall vision to make Grambling, quite frankly, one of the most technologically advanced campuses. And there's so many other ideas that we intend to incorporate, and this will certainly be a very good marker in the ground to show just how forward-thinking our students and others are in terms of wanting to be a technology leader. So if you can imagine coming over the bridge on R.W. Jones and seeing this magnificent facility, we are just so excited and cannot thank Bruce and this board enough for all of the commitment and the pushing to get us to this point. So if all things work properly, we will have final documents prepared by early spring, which would coincide well with the legislative session. And we certainly have the strong commitment of the governor and of the legislature to fund and move this project forward. So we would love to see groundbreaking on this by next fall, and that would be just a tremendous statement of the direction of our university. Any questions? Thank you.
Dr. Gallo.
How many square feet in that, Doug? You know?
About
Bruce?
40,000.
Little over 40,000 square feet. Our existing library is about 90,000, so this is this is the library of the future. It will not resemble the library of the past, I assure you.
Thank you. Mr. Crawford.
I want to make sure there's no stream or anything under this library.
Have there been extensive studies to make sure there's really good dried? Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, this site previously housed 2 high-rise dormitories, Wheatley and Martha Adams Hall. It sits on a hill. We have gone through all of that, and there should be no potential for any water intrusion in this building.
Thank you.
Thank you. But that's a great question.
Thank you. Bruce?
Okay, I think that some of our board members attended this. On October 6th, Louisiana Tech had a milestone celebration for their new engineering and science building, and it was attended by the governor, our board, and others, and just wanted to show you that. And then I'm pleased to say that Mcneese is just about complete with their new health and human performance education complex. I think the move-in date, if everything goes well, is around mid-November. And I wanted to point out that recently the Houston Rockets went to Mcneese and had a practice session for about a week. And it's a magnificent facility, because I had a chance to tour it about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And it's just beautiful. It's going to have classrooms that do a lot of things that Mcneese has not been able to do. And our last thing, September 18th, and as Dr. Kahn pointed out earlier, this is the groundbreaking that was well attended for the Edward J. Villa College of Osteopathic Medicine. So that's some of the exciting things that are going on at our campus. And that's all I have, Mr. Romero. I appreciate the opportunity to kind of showcase some of the things we're doing on our campus.
Thank you, Mr. Genet. Do we have any other business for the committee at this time? Having none, that concludes the Business Facilities Planning Committee. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Mr. Murphy, second by Dr. Egan. Meeting is adjourned. The next committee is Finance.
Finance Committee will now come to order. Carol, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Winfred Seville. Mr.
Present.
Virgil Robinson.
Present.
Dr. John Condos. Mr. Edward Crawford.
Here.
Ms. Lola Donahoe.
Present.
Mr. Ball Martin.
Here.
We have a quorum.
And we invite all other members to participate in the proceedings. We have 2 consent items on the agenda, and I'll ask Dr. Edwin Keefe to present those items.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, the first item on the agenda is Southeastern Louisiana University's request for approval to execute an amended and restated leases with the University Facilities Incorporated in connection with the conversion of the interest rate on outstanding debt related to the student housing and parking facilities from variable rates to fixed rates. Southeastern Louisiana University, in anticipation of the increase in interest rates coming up, is requesting for approval to be able to give them the authority that when the rates reach that point to where they can lock into a fixed rate, they're going to convert this $15 million variable rate to a fixed rate and lock into that before the interest rates start going up significantly. So this will give them the authority to be able to lock into that fixed rate. The second item is item I-2. It's the University of Louisiana Lafayette's request to consolidate 2 endowed chairs, the Dr. Robert Rivette Endowed Chair in Health Informatics and the Acadian Ambulance Service Endowed Chair in Telehealth, into a combined chair. They're currently in the process of advertising to fill this position, so their hope is to, once approved by the UL System Board and then by the Board of Regents, their hope is into the immediate near future be able to fill this double chair with a candidate. Item 3. Are there any questions on the consent items?
You don't get a board on it? Okay. Any questions on the consent agenda? Chair would like a motion to accept the recommendations of the staff.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Donahue moves and Mr. Robinson seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, so ordered. Proceed, Mr.
The next item is item I3, University Systems request to approve fees pursuant to Act 293 of the 2017 regular session of the Louisiana Legislature. The Finance Committee met to go over the fee request from the universities. We had a approximately 2-hour-long meeting, tremendous amount of detail and discussion with the presidents and the board members. I think it was very beneficial to understand the specific targets of these fees, the needs that the institutions have, the amount of cuts that we've taken over time to be able to fill some of these specific areas, faculty salary increases, technology, specifics for those institutions. And so there was a good discussion, and Mr. Chair,
Yes, and I enjoyed the discussion. I thought it was very thorough, and appreciated the members that attended this meeting. We have a motion to adopt this item in the agenda. Ms. Pierre moves. Mr. Romero seconds. Any objections? Hearing none, so ordered.
the next item that we have is the item I4. It's the University of Louisiana Systems discussion of the fiscal 2017-18 fourth quarter reports, and Mr. Charles Went will provide you an update.
Thank you, Mr. Litoff, and thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Wanted to just briefly say that we've turned in our financial statements to the legislative auditor, the year-end financial statements, and thought I would present a summary of the information for those statements. Of course, that would not have been possible without all the assistance from the individual universities, and I want to express my appreciation to the universities. From a broad perspective, our revenues for the system increased by a total of $91 million in the last fiscal year. Keep in mind these were unaudited numbers, but thus far I haven't heard that there's any significant change coming down. $91 million on the revenues. Expenses went up by $13 million, so that created an increase in net position for the system of $78 million. And then also one of the bellwethers that you look at in statements, particularly with all of the things that have been added to financial statements now, is whether or not you're generating sufficient cash to continue your operations and to pay your debt. And we're pleased to see that the cash position for the university system increased by $30 million from 2017 to 2018. Those are the four broadest points. And if you have any questions or want any more details.
We have any questions from members of the board?
Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Yes, Mr. President.
You know, for 8 years, higher education in Louisiana suffered through the largest, longest disinvestment in the nation's history. And because of the leadership of our governor and our legislators, one of which is in the room, Rob Shadowin. Rob, thank you for joining us today. Hey, I'm over here. They stabilized state funding for higher education and fulfilled the TOPS promise for 2 consecutive years. As such, we were able to report healthy numbers in finances for the first time in a decade. Certainly not flush with resources. We continue to operate with the lowest resource base per student in the nation, or one of the lowest. California sometimes beats us out. But the ability of our finance teams, Charles with his new leadership on financial reporting, and Edwin and this whole team across the state has done a remarkable job. We are finally at a place of stable fiscal condition. Eventually we'll be at a place of healthy fiscal condition. But I did want to applaud their work, thank them, and of course thank our governor and our legislature for standing up for higher education and talent development.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I agree with that. Yes.
Yes, sir. I wanted to just mention one more thing. We've also done preliminary fiscal calculations, the fiscal health calculations for the universities. Again, because these are not audited numbers, we're saying preliminary. And we're also pleased to report that none of the universities are on a fiscal watch list at this point. And by and large, the majority of the universities either remain the same or improve their fiscal health conditions during the year. And we also have those details available if you would like to request those.
We haven't heard that too often lately. Okay, this is a report on it, needs no vote. Dr. Edwin, will you please proceed?
Next item is item I-5, is the University of Louisiana Systems Report on internal and external audit activity for the period of August 20th through October 21st, and Bruce Janae will give you an update on the audits.
Thank you. Within your folder, we have compiled a listing of internal audits completed by our various campus auditors since the last board meeting. I did want to point out that there were no external audit reports issued during the period because our campuses are in the process of getting their annual or every other year audit. So probably at the December board meeting is when I'll start presenting the results of the external audits. Within your packet in your binder, I have listed audits that are currently in process, and I've also included a follow-up table to make sure that any time we have recommendations that the auditors go in and follow up timely to see if the recommendations we made have been implemented. And this is a report only and does not require any action by the board, but just wanted to bring you up to date on that.
Thank you, Bruce. Edwin?
Bill, that's all we have today.
Okay, we ended no further business to come before this group. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Romero moves and Ms. Donahue seconds. Any objections here? None so ordered. Next.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd call to order the committee for Personnel Committee. Carol, if you would please take roll.
Mr. Robert Shreve?
Here.
Ms. Elizabeth Pierre? Here. Mr. James Carter? Mr. Richard Davis?
Here.
Ms. Lola Donahoe?
Present.
Mr. Thomas Kitchen?
Here.
Mr. Virgil Robinson?
Here.
Mr. Winfred Sabel?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We invite all members of the board to engage themselves in any discussions here forward. Edwin, if you would please introduce the 6 items of the Personnel Committee agenda today.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, item J1 is Louisiana Tech University request for approval to appoint Ms. Lisa Cole as Vice President for Finance effective July 1st, 2018. Item J2 is Mcneese State University's request for approval to appoint Dr. Frederick Lemieux as Interim Dean of the College of Science and Agricultural effective September 1st, 2018. Item J3 is Nicholls State University request for approval to appoint Dr. J. Stephen Welsh as Interim Dean of Education effective August 13th. Northwestern State University's request for approval to appoint Mr. Patrick Jones as Interim Chief Financial Officer effective October 15th. Southeastern Louisiana University's request for approval to appoint Dr. Gabe Willis as Interim Dean of Students effective August 27th. And the University of Louisiana Lafayette's request for approval to appoint Ms. Susan Richard as the Interim Dean of the University Libraries effective August 7th.
Thank you, Evan. Appreciate it. Are there any questions or comments from the board and or anything open from the public? If no requires further clarification, the consent agendas, may I have a motion and a second for approval of the items that's in the consent agenda?
I do so move.
First by Mr. Civil, second by Ms. Pierre. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. At this time, we would like the presidents to invite the presidents to come and introduce individuals present today.
I'm obviously not President Geis, but on behalf of President Geis, it is my great pleasure to introduce Ms. Lisa Cole as our new Vice President for Finance. I appreciate Dr. Geis's wisdom in presenting Ms. Cole, and Lisa has been with Louisiana Tech for 31 years. She has proved over the years her loyalty, her determination, her thoroughness, and her commitment to making Louisiana Tech financially successful with clean audits, and I can compliment her on always being there to help us. And I would also like to note to the board that she is one of the leaders in implementing the Workday ERP at 3 of the institutions and doing a remarkable job at that.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Dr. Henderson, Chair Perkins, members of the board. Dr. McConaughey, thank you for your kind words. As Dr. McConaughey said, I have spent most of my career working in various roles in the finance division in Louisiana Tech, and I want to thank you for this opportunity to serve as Vice President of Finance for the university. I've had the opportunity to work with some great leaders, Dr. Geis, and before him, Dr. Renaud, as well as individuals like Dr. McConaughey, who's been a role model to me for many years. It's an exciting time to be at Louisiana Tech, and I look forward to working with our leadership team in the future. I want to thank you again for the confidence that you and Dr. Geis have shown in me, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you, Ms. Cole.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Morning.
I would like to introduce to you Mr. Pat Jones. Pat is going to be interim chief financial officer at Northwestern State University. Pat brings to our university a lot of experience and expertise in the financial realm. He was with the university for a number of years in the 1990s as associate vice president for finance, and went to Bossier Parish Community College for a couple of years as assistant vice chancellor for finance. And then for the past 18 years, he has been the finance director for the city of Natchitoches. And we are so happy and elated to have Pat back. He's well respected, not only in our region, but throughout the state of Louisiana. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Mr. Pat Jones.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you all for giving me the opportunity to serve the university and the board. I've worked at Northwestern State University under 2 previous presidents, and look forward to serving with Dr. Maggio in the future. Thank you all for your vote of support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Maggio.
And thank you.
Takes 3 for us to do this. Good morning. Southeastern has not had a dean of students for a number of years. We had a position at one time, and then it was eliminated, I think probably during the multiple years of state budget reductions. When Dr. Eric Summers became our vice president for student affairs, Dr. Summers is sitting to my left, and he looked at the division and made a number of recommendations in terms of reorganizations and new initiatives to improve student success at the university. And one of those recommendations was to recreate the position of Dean of Students. And so Dr. Summers is going to introduce our new interim Dean of Students.
In line with Dr. Crane's comments, one of the most important roles on a college campus is the role of Dean of Students. Primarily because of their work with students, they have one of the biggest impacts on student learning. It takes a truly dynamic individual to serve in this capacity, and we believe that we have found that in Dr. Willis. Dr. Willis has worked in athletics. He's been a faculty member, a deputy Title IX officer, and he's also served as our director of student advocacy and accountability. So I present to you today Dr. Gabe Willis.
Thank you. To the board and Southeastern Administration, Dr. Crane, Dr. Summers, Mr. Damiano, Dr. Golden in the back, thank you all so much for the opportunity. When I moved to Louisiana 4 years ago, my goal was to really find a way to make an impact and to do those things that inherently came natural, which was love students. And in line with that, different roles came, and eventually I met the goal of being named Dean of Students. So I'm thankful for the opportunity, excited about recreating and driving this position and lining up with all of our university goals and driving Louisiana state system forward and Southeastern forward. So thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may add. I was going to say I've known Dr. Willis since my sophomore year, and He's really been a great advocate for students, and I've known him on a personal basis and a professional basis, and he's really, I know he'll do a great job as our interim dean of students.
Welcome.
Okay. All right, thank you, Evan. Is there any other new business at this time, Mr. Chairman? If not, this concludes Personnel Committee, and we recommend adjournment. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So fast.
Board members, do we need a break or we can get straight started? Anybody need a break? That's good. Now call to order today's meeting of the Board of Supervisors of the University of Louisiana System. Ms. Carroll, will you please give us a roll call?
Mr. James Carter. Dr. John Condos. Mr. Edward Crawford.
Here.
Mr. Richard Davis.
Here.
Ms. Lola Donahoe.
Present.
Dr. Pamela Egan.
Present.
Mr. Tom Kitchen.
Here.
Mr. Bo Martin.
Here.
Mr. Sean Murphy.
Here.
Mr. Al Perkins.
Here.
Ms. Elizabeth Pierre.
Here.
Mr. Virgil Robinson.
Here.
Mr. Mark Romero.
Here.
Mr. Joe Salter.
Here.
Mr. Robert Shreve.
Here.
Mr. Winfred Sabille.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Carroll. Just want the minutes to reflect as well that Mr. Carter did contact me to state that he would be running late on today, and he should be here around noon. Before I get started with that, it's my understanding that on yesterday was Ms. Carroll's birthday. Is that correct?
Yep.
And so just wanted to, they didn't give me any dates, Ms. Carroll, no date of birth, but no years. I'm not going to put that out there.
Okay.
But on behalf of the board, though, we wanted to thank you for everything that you do, and thank you for everything that you do, even outside of the meeting for our board, and making sure that we're efficient. And we're just blessed to have you here for another year, and to have you present with us. And we just want to wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you, thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you as a courtesy. Thank you as a courtesy. Please turn off your cell phone or any other electronic devices. Be reminded that anyone wishing to make a public comment on a particular agenda item must complete a public comment card located on the back table at the entrance and turn it into a ULS staff member. At this time, we have the invocation by Mr. Romero.
If you please stand. Bow our heads. Heavenly Father, please guide us in our deliberations today. Please give us the wisdom to make the right choices, to promote the intent of the delivery of our mission. Please protect our students, our faculty, our administration, and thank you for the many blessings you've provided to us in allowing us to deliver the mission of goodwill and development of our people. Amen.
Amen. At this time, may I please have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the August 23rd, 2018 board meeting?
I do
So-
some.
I have a motion by Mr. Davis and a second by Mrs. Donahoe. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved. Before we begin the committee reports, Dr. Henderson, would you please take a few minutes to introduce our very special guest today?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Earlier this summer, the Northwestern State family had their eyes glued on the television to watch one of their own crowned as Miss Louisiana. Just a few months later, the whole state of Louisiana beamed with pride to see this young woman win the talent contest at the Miss America contest and place second runner-up for Miss America. I will tell you, I have seen her perform in drama, in dance. I've heard her sing. By the way, on November 22nd, those of you that like pro football, I'm sure you'll be watching the Saints and the Falcons. Those of you that do not like pro football, you should be watching the Saints and the Falcons, because at halftime, the world-famed band from Grambling State University will be performing at halftime with some other opening act. I'm not sure who that is.
Hey.
But at the beginning of the game, the National Anthem will be sung by Miss Louisiana, Holly Conway. She is an extraordinary example for women, for young people, and for old people. She embodies everything that we strive to be in human development and improving the human condition. She is a role model for all of Louisiana, and I am delighted to call her my friend. Would you please give a warm welcome to Miss Louisiana, Holly Conway. Holly, won't you take a few minutes and tell the board a little bit about yourself and about your platform and what you're pursuing?
Yes. Well, okay, I will say a little bit about myself, but I really want to talk about my university experience, if that's okay with you.
That'd be perfect.
So I went to a little school called Northwestern State University. That was not my plan. My senior year, I toured the University of Alabama. A lot of people don't know that. And it wasn't home. And the second I visited that university, I knew that I needed to go to NSU. And so, by the words of Senator Long, he told me every year at his Christmas party, Holly, you're going to come to Northwestern and be a demon with me. And I said, no, I won't. But I did. And that's where I met Dr. Henderson. And I would just have to say, I have to thank you for everything you did on our campus. I mean, the second you walked onto that campus, you knew every single one of our names. You would walk around the student union and make sure that we knew we mattered. And that meant so much to me. I want you to know that. There's a lot that goes into y'all's jobs. I know there is, but all that we care about is that we know we are special to you. And seeing you in my performances, all of that, it just made so much. It made such an impact in my life. So I thank you so much for that. And then came Dr. Maggio, who I wasn't able to be a student underneath his presidency, but I've known you for all 4 years of my years at Northwestern, and I knew you before that. And every time someone asked me about the support I got from NSU, before Miss Louisiana, after Miss Louisiana, before Miss America, I used the word overwhelming. I mean, that billboard on 165, I imagine you bought. And I just say it's just overwhelming pride that y'all gave to me. Hey, Dr. Hondo, I didn't know you would be here. But yes, I won talent at Miss America. I didn't grow up in musical theater. So when I came to college and studied musical theater, I was already 10 steps behind everybody. I didn't grow up in Miss Louisiana, so when I competed, I was already 10 steps behind. And I could not have done anything that I've done today without the support of my NSU family. So I thank you so, so much for everything you've done for me. And I have to shout out my new family, my ULM family, Miss Lisa. So they take care of us at Miss Louisiana. They house all of the contestants during Miss Louisiana week, and they house me for the entire year, which is not easy. They feed me and I like to eat. They house me, and just since I've moved into ULM campus, I have locked myself out of my room. I have locked myself into the elevator, and I have broken my air conditioner. So I've given them a very hard time, but they have been so, so generous, and I thank you guys for that. Miss Lisa, thank you so much. My platform is Inspire, and it's because I want to build futures, just like I saw this sign, I had to take a picture of it, for your future, for our future. I want to help build futures, and that's what the Miss Louisiana organization does. If you remember back, I was in college 2014 to 2016. We had a budget scare, and we thought TOPS and performing arts were going to get cut. I was on a performing arts scholarship. But because of the Miss Louisiana organization, I didn't have to worry about it. I've won over $40,000 throughout that organization. And I want to let you know that we have a common goal, and that is to build futures for the youth of our state. And it means so much to me to witness how much you guys care and how much you guys do for us. So I would like to say, if you're ever interested in being involved with the Miss Louisiana organization, please talk to me, talk to Miss Lynn, because I know that we can expand our reach. And everything you do is so great, and I would love to work with you guys. So thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you so much for having me, and I want you to know that you have all impacted my life, and I would not be where I am if it weren't for you guys. Thank you.
Before you leave, before you leave, Ms. Conway, first of all, again, on behalf of the board and our system, just want to thank you for everything you do, and your platform is definitely inspiring to us. You inspired us here in Louisiana, and like I shared with you last night, we were texting back and forth as you were competing, pushing and hoping that you were going to win Miss America, but the moment you were competing, you were winning for Louisiana anyway. And you represented everything that was good about us and good about our system, and we appreciate that. And like I shared with you yesterday, you're the few person that I can root for in front of my wife like that about winning because you're one of her sorority sisters, a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And they were very proud of you on that day. And I've already shared our picture together with her, so I was excited about that. But seriously though, we appreciate everything you're doing. We appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to come here and be with us. And she is just another example of the talent that we are producing out of our system. And just continue to make us proud. On behalf of the board, we have a small token that we want to present to you. For your future, for our future, is Louisiana, Audit, a recognition of your exemplary representation of the University of Louisiana and your committed service to the state of Louisiana. October 25th, 2018. I would have put up the demon sign if I was on Northwestern's campus. I have some other universities here that might have a problem with me adjusting my fingers like that. But thank you again, Ms. Conway. Dr. Egan, would you please give the board your report on the Academic and Student Affairs Committee?
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. The Academic and Student Affairs Committee met earlier this morning and recommended approval of items F1 through F13. Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion to accept the recommendation of the committee. Discussion items F14, the system's free speech policy, and F15, reducing textbook cost initiatives, for reports only.
Thank you, Ms. Egan. Ms. Egan has made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Murphy. Are there any comments from the board? Any comments from the public? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Mr. Robinson will now present the committee report for athletics.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Athletic Committee met this morning. We had 7 items on our agenda. All items were approved by the committee. And on behalf of the committee, I recommend approval of the items G1 through G7.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Ms. Robinson had made a motion. Do I have a second, please? A second by Mr. Murphy. Are there any comments from the board? Any comments from the public? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Mr. Romero, please present your Facilities Planning Committee report.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, this morning, the Facilities Planning Committee met and considered one consent item for Northwestern State University's naming of the room 217 of Bienvenue Hall. That item was approved by the committee members. There was a report of facilities updates, and no other business was entertained by the committee. Considering the position of the committee, I certainly will concur and recommend that we approve the item that was considered this morning.
I have a motion by Mr. Romero, a second by Dr. Egan. Are there any comments from the board? Any comments from the public? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Mr. Bill will present the finance report.
Mr. Chairman, Finance Committee met. We had 2 consent items on the agenda and 1 discussion item. And all 3 items were approved by the committee on behalf of the committee. I recommend these three items.
Thank you. Mr. Bill has made a motion. Do I have a second, please? Second by Mr. Robinson. Are there any comments from the board?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Just for the record, regarding agenda item 3, I reached out to the Student Advisory Council, and there was no opposition to the fees that were being proposed.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. And that was regarding the fees and as a result of the the Finance Committee meeting that we had on Tuesday.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any comments from the public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Mr. Shreve, will you present the Personnel Committee report?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Personnel Committee met this morning on items J1 through J6 and approved as such. Make a motion that we approve.
Thank you, Mr. Shreve made a motion. I have a second by Mr. Murphy. Are there any comments from the board? Any comments from the public? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Other business, we now come to item J7 on the agenda of other business, the university president's evaluations. The board will first meet with Dr. Savoy to review his in-depth evaluation. Additionally, each president has been notified that the remaining presidential evaluations may be discussed during the executive sessions. The Board of Supervisors of the University of Louisiana System may meet in executive session to discuss personnel matters under the provisions of Louisiana Revised Statute 42:17. While in executive session, the board may not make any motions or take any votes. May I have a motion and a second to go into executive session?
I do so move.
I have a motion by Mr. Davis and a second by Mr. Murphy. Carol, can you conduct a roll call vote, please?
Mr. James Carter, Dr. John Condos, Mr. Edward Crawford, Mr. Richard Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Lola Donahoe,
Yes.
Dr. Pamela Egan,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas Kitchen,
Yes.
Mr. Bo Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Sean Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Al Perkins,
Yes.
Ms. Elizabeth Pierre,
Yes.
Mr. Virgil Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Mark Romero,
Yes.
Mr. Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mr. Robert Shreve,
Yes.
Mr. Winfred Seville. Well, it's unanimous anyway.
Thank you. The board will now adjourn to executive session.
Thank you.
Board of Supervisors of the University of Louisiana System met in executive session to discuss personnel matters. While in executive session, no motions were made, no votes were taken. Is there a motion to reconvene in open session? Moved by Mr. Murphy, second by Mr. Davis. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Dr. Henderson, will you please present your report at this time?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The board members were emailed copies of the personnel actions for review as well as a pay plan from the University of New Orleans. If you'll remember, in the August meeting, you received pay plans from Mcneese, from Nicholls State, and from Southeastern. This month, Nicholls and Southeastern included those increases. So staff has reviewed the personnel actions and the pay plan and recommends approval. Mr. Chairman, we need a motion and a second.
Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Romero, second by Mrs. Sabille. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. One of the system's central messages this year was about the future of work and how that's driving so much of what we do, why educational attainment is increasingly important. Technology is having a significant impact. In 2002, this was an interesting statistic to me. In 2002, jobs that were classified as low digital skills made up 56% of the jobs of total employment. Today, 48% of jobs require medium digital skills, while 23% require high digital skills. You do the math quickly, that's 71% of employment needs high or medium digital skills. Completely changed everything we know about the world of work. Now, at the same time, employers, and we just had a meeting with, CenturyLink meeting with all 9 of our chief academic officers. Employers are saying it's not just the technical skills that we need. We need independent, critical thinkers. We need problem solvers. We need people that can communicate effectively. All of that is leading us to know that educational attainment is absolutely essential to our future. Now, we don't know exactly where we're headed, and if you read all of the studies that are out there, you can get any number of projections on what the future of work will look like. But we do know where we've been. And Cami, could you bring up some slides? We've got 2 slides. These are about post-recession employment in the United States. And if you know, an image is worth 1,000 words. If you read just a couple of the words on this image, it tells you where we are as a nation. And the jobs that have been created since the recovery, 8.4 million jobs went to those with bachelor's degrees. 3.1 million to those with some college or associate degrees. And you can tell now that the high school or less is simply not a viable level of education to compete in the new economy. If you look at total employment changes from 2010 to 2016, it gives you a similar image, where high-skilled jobs are dominated by those that are graduates of our universities. Even middle school jobs are increasingly for those with an education. I give you these slides, or show these slides to you, just to tell you how, to help create a compelling need for our work. It's something that I think that eludes a lot of folks, but it's important that we understand that our work is not even close to being completed. We're going to have to do things at a much higher level. But also we know that when we look at educational attainment in Louisiana, we know that not all populations have benefited from it. Last February, when we met in retreat at Louisiana Tech, we talked about educational attainment. We also talked about underserved populations, populations that come from rural areas, populations that come from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, first-generation college students, students of color. We talked about if we were going to truly advance Louisiana, that we had to find ways to reach all of these populations. During that conversation, we agreed that staff from UL System working with the presidents would come to you with a purposeful commitment to that work. Since that time, we had marathon legislative sessions. We had any number of events emerge, but we have finally come to you with this work. This is a statement that I would submit for your approval, that is a statement of commitment from this system to advance our work. And I'll read it to you. There's a copy of it in your folders. But the statement says that the University of Louisiana system and its member institutions believe universities that aspire to prepare students from all backgrounds for leadership, service, and learning, to empower regional, state, and global economies, and to enrich communities through scholarship, research, and artistic expression must be reflective of those students' economies and communities. The Board of Supervisors for the University of Louisiana System recognizes diversity as essential to operational effectiveness and mission fulfillment and as a strategic business imperative. The board declares the recruitment and development of high-quality administrators, faculty, and staff from all demographic, experiential, and cultural backgrounds a systemic priority. And the board charges the system president in collaboration with the presidents of the system's member institutions with the development of a policy framework inclusive of measurable outcomes that ensures diverse, effective leadership is present at all levels of the enterprise. This is important work for our universities, and I ask the board for your support of this statement. If there's not any questions or comments, Mr. Chair, I would ask that the board endorse this resolution as a statement of their support.
Before we take any motion, any comments from the board? Yes, Mr. Carter.
Yeah, I think this is a wonderful expression of the board in a progressive way to move forward in a very intelligent, business-like as well as intelligent way to move forward as an objective of this particular system. And I think it moves us into the future and keeps us in step with the best thinking of corporations and systems, not only here in the state of Louisiana, but around the country and around the world.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Any other comments from any other board member? Yep. We need a motion and a second to approve. Motion by Mr. Sabille, second by Mr. Carter. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Go ahead, Mr.
Well, thank you for that vote of support. I will let the board know that Deb Elam from New Orleans, who is the former executive vice president for diversity for General Electric and the president of the General Electric Foundation, is already working with us. She's already visited with the Management Leadership Institute, and she'll be visiting all of our campuses, having conversations with them to understand exactly where we are and exactly where we need to go, and we look forward to bringing forward some great action items from that. Real quickly, the system conference, we have a save the date. Dr. Khan, if you will.
I am pleased to announce that planning is well underway for our second annual For Our Future conference. There's a mark for the save the date. This will be distributed to last year's attendees as well as to our campus presidents, asking them to push it out to their campuses, their faculty and staff via broadcast email. Next week, or the following week, we will send out a call for proposals for faculty and staff that would be interested in presenting at the conference, as well as nominations for outstanding faculty and staff members. The date is February 14th and 15th. We ask that if you're available, we'd love to have you attend. What better way to celebrate Valentine's Day than with 450 of your closest colleagues? So stay tuned for more information. We're really excited. We will continue to build on the strategic framework and tracks that will align with that, and we will look forward to sharing more information to come.
It's a perfect Valentine's Day opportunity for you. Dr. Khan, while you're at the table, I'd hope that you would give the board an update on the task force on inclusion.
Absolutely. And at this time, I'd like for Winston DeQueer Jr. and Dr. Michelle Caruso to come join me. We'll do a brief update for you in lieu of time. If you do recall, President Henderson announced the creation of a task force on inclusion in the workplace back in March when we had Postlewaite and Netterville facilitate a healthy and productive workplace day-long meeting for various campus representatives. The task force includes myself, Winston DeQueer Jr., Michelle Caruso, who is with Nicholls State University, Ronnie Bisco with Northwestern State University, and Jean Prejean with Southeastern Louisiana University. For you all to hear, you've heard from me all day, so I'm going to go ahead and pass the microphone over to my very esteemed colleagues here to bring you up to speed on what we've been up to.
Thank you. Chairperson Perkins, board members, and Dr. Henderson, and I'm very grateful to be a part of this very meaningful endeavor and very much appreciate Dr. Khan's leadership in this. Back in March, we started by requesting all relevant policies and procedures from the 9 institutions related to inclusion, diversity, harassment, discrimination, and such. From there, we conducted an environmental scan of those existing policies by having all 5 of us review them from our perspective. In early April, we had our first in-person meeting in Baton Rouge where we focused on 5 primary areas. First, we looked at the policies that had been received and discussed our perspectives on those. Secondly, we talked about how to change a culture of each institution as an organization, as well as a culture of our overall system as an organization. Third, the role of the task force. We knew what our charge was, but we discussed in depth what that needed to look like in real life to be as meaningful as possible. Fourth, we projected an end product and what that might need to look like to make sure we were providing our piece of the puzzle in the system's overall efforts and endeavors related to diversity and inclusion. And fifth, we talked about how to most effectively and efficiently collect pertinent input and feedback from all of the campuses beyond the policy documents that we had already reviewed. So then in late April from there, we sent a set of questions out to all HR directors, senior women administrators, athletic directors, and provosts. And the questions that we asked of them were related to challenges in recruiting faculty and staff across their campuses, what kind of complaints they had been receiving, and how those had been handled thus far. Training related to these issues, what had been done on those campuses, recommendations, what future training might need to look like, and then how the UL system could help with related to these issues. After thorough discussion about their responses and looking at those, we did conference calls, follow-up conference calls with people who were strategically chosen from the pool of ones who had answered those questions for us and provided that feedback. And that allowed us to get a clearer picture of what was going on campuses, what some of the needs were, et cetera, and to pursue some directions that weren't necessarily on our radar from the beginning.
So, to conclude, in October, we visited ULL and we specifically interviewed people related to a complaint of discrimination they're handling, not with an eye towards solving it, but with an eye towards what was the root cause and are the processes in place so that folks feel like they're being listened to when they make those types of complaints. Our goal is to present some recommendations this December. One of the benefits of those recommendations is they are going to extend beyond just race and gender. One of the things we've learned is that some of our employment problems arise out of a lack of management training. For example, professors, because they're very good professors, often get promoted to managing other employees, but they're not taught how to manage other employees, and they're placed in the position of making disciplinary decisions or other employment decisions, and it causes friction. So in addition to improving diversity and folks' sense of inclusion in the system, by December we should have a set of recommendations that actually improves overall employee morale.
Yes, and this group has been working tirelessly. Individuals like Dr. Caruso that have taken time out of their everyday work at their respective institution and to come together to drive all the way to Lafayette and spend many, many hours collecting and gathering information so we can have insightful and very thoughtful work. So I thank my colleagues here. And so we look forward to providing that information with you. I think it will help for all of our 9 campuses to ensure that there is a healthy culture for our faculty, staff, and students to teach, research, and learn. And that's the end goal with this task force. So thank you very much for your time today. Any questions?
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I want to thank Dr. Maggio, Dr. Clune, and Dr. Crane for lending us this expertise that you have on your campus every day. I know that puts a strain on your campuses, but this is important work, and it gives us some insight into just the level of professionalism we have. So Dr. Caruso, thank you very much as well. Item K3 is the University of Louisiana Monroe's request to bestow the title of President Emeritus upon Dr. Dwight D. Vines, the 5th president of the university, which was then known as Northeast Louisiana University. Dr. Bruno is unable to attend today's meeting. Some excuse about his daughter getting married. Yeah, he's where he needs to be. In your folders, you'll find his request to award Dr. Dwight Vines the title of President Emeritus of UL Monroe. Now, our board rules, according to our board rules, the system president recommends to the Board of Supervisors the title of President Emeritus when deemed appropriate. Criteria include clear evidence of outstanding teaching, recognized record of meritorious professional achievement, clear evidence of university service beyond the normal or ordinary expectations. I have to be in full disclosure, Dr. Vines is my mom's brother. So when I received this request, I felt a little conflicted, because I know the personal stories. I'm just kidding. I asked Dr. Kahn if she would conduct a review of his professional credentials and contributions to the university, and she affirmed to me that he indeed meets the meritus standards. So, Mr. Chair, respectfully ask that you would ask for a motion to approve the request to name Dr. Dwight D. Vines President Emeritus of ULM.
Do I have a motion, please? Motion by Vice Chair. I'm sorry. Absolutely. Absolutely. Motion by Mr. Sean Murphy. Do you have any comments with it, Mr. Murphy?
Just a very deserving candidate and a wonderful person. And just as a bit of trivia, he was born on the same day that our university started, 87 years ago.
Isn't that crazy?
How about that? Great guy.
Thank you. And then I have a second by Ms. Liz Pierre. Ms. Pierre, you have any comment with it?
No, just that I wasn't able to interact with Dr. Vines at the university, but I have in his role as economic developer for the city of Monroe, and I thoroughly enjoy the man. He is so knowledgeable and a wonderful gentleman. So I most wholeheartedly second that motion.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none.
Thank you very much. And finally, for me, last month, the Board of Regents announced it will conduct an audit of admissions at state universities. As part of the master plan for higher education, the Board of Regents, as you know, establishes admissions criteria for colleges and universities that align with institutional missions and state priorities. I'm pleased to tell you that our university has enrolled more than 15,000 first-time freshmen this fall. And every one of our 9 universities has abided by the policy established by the Board of Regents. And so I congratulate our presidents for that work. Mr. Perkins, that concludes my business.
Thank you, Dr. Henderson. Want to thank Dr. Nicolo and his staff on yesterday's faculty for a beautiful reception we had at the water campus last night. It was very, very well attended. Just want to thank you for everything that you did for us on yesterday. It's a great opportunity to fellowship with each other. We had a large amount of system representatives there, and just thankful for that event. So thank you, Dr. Nicolo. And thanks for exposing us to the water campus as well. Want to recognize board member Richard Davis, our student board member. Earlier this month, Mr. Davis received a scholarship from the Louisiana Association of College and University Student Personnel Administrators. He was selected by the Scholarship Review Committee as the Gold Scholar, which is a $1,000 scholarship. LACUSPA issues scholarships to deserving undergraduate and graduate students who have exhibited exemplary academic performance and commitment to student affairs. The gold and silver scholarships are open to undergraduate students with campus leadership experience. Congratulations, Mr. Davis. And we love seeing our student board members continue to do great things in their personal lives. And we always appreciate the sacrifice that they make being here at these board meetings, and their input is very, very valuable in there. Last month, I believe, want to recognize our parliamentarian board member, James Carter, for his appointment to the NOCA board on there. So that is a governor-appointed board. As many of y'all know about Mr. Carter, he is a thespian at heart. And this is a very powerful board as it relates to inspiring our youth and our performing arts talent here in Louisiana to be able to create business and pathways forward for them. So I want to congratulate Mr. Carter for that as well. I would like to invite everyone on our board to make plans to attend our commencement exercises. We generally put out a link that I think Ms. Calais normally sends out for our graduations coming up in the fall. This past May, I was glad to say that we covered all 9 of the universities' graduations by board members. We had 100% coverage. Really enjoyed them, really had the opportunity to bond more with some of the provosts, the faculty, and the staff in there. So I thank all the board members. Mark and I got a chance to participate at Nichols University. I don't think we'll ever forget that graduation. It was a very good graduation, but the temperature definitely was memorable. But needless to say, they still kept a great spirit with it, and we enjoyed the hospitality there. But I encourage all of our board members to sign up again for the fall commencement exercises to help the presidents be able to coordinate with that. And we thank all their staff for the accommodations that they provide us in participation. Dr. Clune had a first top staff for us, getting Mark and I situated at the graduation, having every accommodation that we need there, and we were proud to be there for his first commencement exercise. So board members, please take that time. At this point in time, since we're talking about commencement exercises, want to take a special time to bring Dr. Savoy up for a few words.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate spending a couple of minutes with you to talk about our good friend, Mr. Winfred Seville. Mr. Seville has served as a leader in higher education since 1995 when he began serving as a member of the Board of Supervisors for the University of Louisiana system. He's the longest serving member of the board. Perhaps even more significant than his higher education leadership is Mr. Seville's leadership in K-12 education. Over his career, he's performed in important roles as teacher, principal, district supervisor, assistant superintendent. He helped shape educational policy in Louisiana through his efforts as a consultant and lobbyist for the Louisiana School Board Association. The Louisiana Association of School Executives recognized his exemplary leadership in the K-12 field by naming him the 1989 State Educator of the Year. Mr. Seville's career has significantly impacted Louisiana students in both K-12 and higher education and has improved the lives of all Louisiana residents. He has set a standard for public service that is compatible with the highest ideals, and his efforts will continue to influence Louisiana policy and Louisiana students for years to come. In light of his commitment and achievements in the field of educational leadership, I ask the board to authorize the university to honor him with an honorary degree of Doctor of Educational Leadership at his fall commencement exercises. May take some action on the board's behalf.
Yes, it will. And before we go into action, I will ask for comments from any board members that want to speak. I'm going to start. Mrs. Seville, you have been a true treasure to this board and to the system over the years. I think you've greeted everyone on this board as they have come on the board. You greet them with a smile, but with pure honesty as well. I know in joining the board, you immediately came to me, advised me, and gave good wisdom to me, especially being a new board member and moving into chairman. Any of you all who know Mr. Seville, he may not agree with everything you're going to do, but he does support the board, and he wants to make sure that the board is in harmony, and he wants to make sure that the board is staying together, because if the board is not together, the system cannot move forward. And he showed that not through just words, but through his actions. And when you have that type of a man that we have an opportunity to share with, this is the least, the very bare minimum least thing that we can do is to give you this honor, Mr. Seville. Thank you so much for everything that you've done. Thank you on behalf of the over 90,000 students that are currently here and the hundreds of thousands that have passed through our system during your tenure here on the board. You are a gentleman and a scholar. You are a leader and an inspiration for every board member here. And just want to thank you and congratulations for everything you've done.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know how to answer that. I know my wife wouldn't agree with you, but I want to say this. This board is the finest board I've ever served on. I've served on a number of boards, state boards, teacher retirement system board, TOPS Commission. I've worked with committees of regions, but right now you had seated here at this table, I think the finest group that we've ever had. And of course, when you're leaving, it's easy to say all kind of good things. And I could say about the staff, I really appreciate our staff. These people have gone through a lot of trouble in the last few years. And it's changed, and it's become the staff that fits our president. But I think it's a real fine staff. But I also want to say about our presidents, our nine. I feel so comfortable with the people that we have now. We haven't always had the leadership that we have now. And, you know, some of these people I didn't vote for, but they were better than I thought they were. Much better. To show you how much I know. No. We've worked through those kinds of scenarios and came out with a homogeneous staff, homogeneous board. And I was proud to serve with not only this board, but the board that we had previously. And I thank you all for the kind words. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other board members like to comment at this time?
Sure. I would echo the comments you've offered, Al, and know that TJO has worked very closely with Mr. Seville, and certainly have, over the past 6 years, had the opportunity to work very closely with Mr. Seville as well. The level of humility that he brings to his commitment to serve on this board, he is truly a servant leader. And I believe that, we have all had an opportunity to be inspired in, our staff, our presidents and our various campuses. I think Jim and his leadership, all of us have had an opportunity to be inspired by his wisdom and his always unconditional effort towards compromise and resolution and forward-thinking initiatives to bring us to a better level. So I want to thank him, as a member of this board and personally, for all of the things that he's done. I will miss him dearly and hope that he's going to continue to answer my calls after he rides off into the sunset, which is very soon. But know that you will be missed, and it's been a pleasure and an honor to serve with you. And I offer a motion to approve. I'm sorry.
I just got three words. Well done, Governor.
Mr. Salter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I met Winford Seville probably 150 years ago when I was served in the legislature. But seriously, he was one of the first people that I met. He was probably working for the School Board Association then. And when you serve in a body like that across the street, your word is important. And you could count on Win. If he gave you a commitment or agreed with you on a certain position, you could rest assured that he would be there. You could count on him. He kind of like E.F. Hutton. Young people probably don't know who E.F. Hutton is, but when Win would speak over there in committee or wherever, people listened. He didn't speak a lot, but when he spoke, people did listen. He was very well respected there and did great work. I'm new with serving here on the board. Of course, I'm new with this, but I've watched him over the years, and I can't wait until this act is official and I can call him Dr. Seville. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Carter.
Just want to say thank you, Mr. Seville, personally, for being such a inspiring role model and a person that has, since the very beginning of my tenure here on the board, being so kind and selfless as it relates to filling my head with knowledge. So I just want to thank you for that personally on behalf of myself and my family.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Any other comments? Do I have a motion, please? Moved by. Okay, I'm sorry. We will need a motion and a second to first add it to the agenda. I have a motion. Motion by Mr. Romero, second by Mr. Carter. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Roll call. To add it to the agenda. Yeah, have to have a roll call. Carol.
Mr. James Carter?
Yes.
Mr. Ed Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Richard Davis? Ms. Lola Donahoe?
Yes.
Dr. Pam Egan? Mr. Tom Kitchen?
Yes.
Mr. Bo Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Sean Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Al Perkins?
Yes.
Ms. Elizabeth Pierre?
Yes.
Mr. Virgil Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Mark Romero?
Yes.
Mr. Joe Salter?
Yes.
Mr. Robert Shreve?
Yes.
Mr. Seville?
Abstain.
Now we need a, now we need a motion on the actual. So moved by, Ms. Romero, second by Mr. Carter. I know we don't need a roll call for the approval, but just so the record, so we can have everybody's voice on the record, can you do another roll call for the approving of, Mr. Romero? I mean, Mr. Sabia, please.
Mr. James Carter?
Approve.
Mr. Edward Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Richard Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Lola Donahoe?
Yes.
Mr. Tom Kitchen?
Yes.
Mr. Bo Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Sean Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Al Perkins?
Yes.
Ms. Elizabeth Pierre? Yes. Mr. Virgil Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Mark Romero?
Yes.
Mr. Joe Salter?
Yes.
Mr. Robert Shreve?
Yes.
Mr. Winfrey Seville?
Now therefore it be resolved that the Board of Supervisors for the University of Louisiana System hereby approves the University of Louisiana at Lafayette's request to award Mr. Winfred Sabille the honorary doctor of educational leadership at the fall commencement exercise. Congratulations again, Mr. Sabille. I think we know where most of us will be this fall commencement exercise.
And after that, I'll have a doctorate, but I won't be able to cure or wart on the floor.
We should have got an alligator hunting. But we got a little bit more work for you to do, Mr. Bill, before you leave. Now I have to appoint the nominating committee. I'm appointing Mrs. Sabille to serve on the nominating committee, Robert Shreve, Sean Murphy, and Richard Davis. Mrs. Sabille, I ask that you will serve as the chairman of the nominating committee. The purpose of the nominating committee is to recommend a slate of board of officers for the coming year. This committee will meet in conjunction with the December meeting and give us its recommendation at that time. Thank each one of you all for agreeing to serve on the nominating committee. Any other business? The next regular meeting of the board is scheduled for Thursday, December.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I do have one thing.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like the board to just acknowledge the passing of one of our former board members, Mr. Tex Kilpatrick of Monroe. Mr. Kilpatrick served on the Board of Supervisors for 6 years, if I'm not mistaken, in fact, serving as vice chairman during his final year. And Mr. Kilpatrick passed away on October 19th of this year, so I just want to acknowledge that for the board.
Thank you, Ms. Pierre. I just ask that right now that everyone in the audience and the board member take a quick moment of silence and lift Mr. Kilpatrick and his family in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you. Is there any further business to come before the board at this time? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Excuse me, you didn't finish your announcement about the meeting. Thursday what?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thursday, December 13th.
Location?
To be determined very quickly.
It better be.
Ms. Donahoe is trying to figure out if we're going back to,
There's not gonna be any room
if we're
in
going
the
back to
end
next.
if y'all don't make a decision. And Thursday the 13th doesn't work for that. So you're gonna have to check this out.
Yes, Ms. Donahoe, we will make sure to.
Thank you very much.
We're going to get that, get that together. Any other further business come from the board? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved by, second by, Ms. Romero. Thank you, we're adjourned.
Take care.